Imagine, just for a second, a weapon of mass destruction. What actually pops into your head? A massive warhead, right? Maybe a stealth bomber? Or a highly trained tactical team? We are so conditioned to think of warfare in terms of kinetic energy, huge explosives, and just overwhelming physical force. But what if I told you that one of the most devastating weapons in modern history doesn't use a single bullet? It doesn't launch a missile, it doesn't drop a bomb. This explainer is all about a weapon crafted entirely out of ones and zeros. A weapon capable of destroying heavily armored military facilities from the inside out, completely undetected, until it is entirely too late.
For decades, the idea of a computer virus causing literal physical destruction of heavy industrial machinery was pretty much reserved for Hollywood thrillers. It was pure science fiction. But in the year 2010, the world collectively realized that the script had been totally flipped. Science fiction became our absolute reality. This was the moment the era of cyber warfare officially began, stepping right off of our computer screens and into the concrete and steel of the real world. We're no longer just talking about hackers trying to steal your password or, crash a website. We are talking about an invisible digital missile, a piece of software engineered with such precision and malicious intent that it can literally reach out from the digital realm and shatter solid metal. Welcome to the story of the weapon you cannot see.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the invisible digital missile. Moving right along to Section 2, the air-gapped fortress. Picture this. Deep beneath the desert in Natanz, Iran, lay a highly secured underground nuclear facility. It was surrounded by anti-aircraft guns, heavily guarded by military personnel, and this complex housed thousands of incredibly complex, rapidly spinning silver cylinders known as nuclear centrifuges. And they were all busy refining uranium. Now, from a physical standpoint, this place was a fortress, right? It was built to withstand bombs and direct military assaults. But its digital defenses were supposed to be even stronger, all because of a concept called being air-gapped. The Natanz facility was completely 100% disconnected from the outside internet. No Wi-Fi signals coming in, no Ethernet cables connecting their control systems to the outside world. And air-gapped is basically the ultimate cybersecurity defense. The logic is super simple. If a computer isn't connected to the internet, it is physically impossible to hack it from the outside. You just can't remotely log into a machine that doesn't have a connection. So the engineers and operators down there, they felt completely secure. But then, the absolute unthinkable happened. Suddenly, this heavy industrial machinery started behaving really strangely. The high-pitched whine of the industrial motors began spinning dangerously fast. And that escalated into the terrifying sound of mechanical grinding and shattering metal. Thousands of these delicate, absolutely critical centrifuges were violently tearing themselves apart. But here is the truly chilling part, the detail that caused just pure, blind panic in the control room. As the facility was physically destroying itself, the operators' diagnostic screens showed absolutely nothing was wrong. Every single thing on their monitors said the system was working perfectly normally. The operators were completely blind to the destruction happening right in front of their faces. Let's play digital detective for a minute. Section 3, Anatomy of Stuxnet. When the dust finally settled, the search for the culprit began. Cybersecurity experts were brought in to analyze the systems, basically treating it like a digital crime scene. And when they finally isolated the anomaly, the actual malware responsible for all this chaos, they were terrified. They named this phantom code Stuxnet. Now, to understand why they were so terrified, we have to contrast this new threat with what we knew at the time. Standard malware, the kind of viruses you or I might accidentally get on our laptops, is generally designed for theft or disruption. It wants to steal your credit card numbers, harvest your data, or maybe lock your files for a ransom. But Stuxnet wasn't after data. It wasn't after money. Stuxnet was a digital missile designed exclusively to destroy physical hardware. It didn't want to steal from the centrifuges, it wanted to obliterate them. And the sheer engineering behind this code was just staggering. Researchers discovered that Stuxnet was an astounding 20 times more complex than any malicious code they had ever seen before. 20 times! This wasn't something coded by some teenager in a basement. The massive layout of code lines indicated a level of sophistication, funding, and architectural genius that pointed to a massive, highly organized operation. Just to give you an idea of how advanced this was, look at this number. 4. Stuxnet utilized an unprecedented 4 zero-day vulnerabilities. So what's a zero-day? It's a flaw in software, in this case Windows software, that the original developers didn't even know existed. Because the creators of Windows didn't know about the flaw, they literally had 0 days to prepare a patch or a defense against it. Finding and utilizing just one 0-day vulnerability is considered a massive, highly valuable achievement in the hacking world. Using 4 of them in a single piece of malware, that is literally like bringing 4 nuclear weapons to a knife fight. It basically ensured that the code could slip past almost any operating system's defense completely seamlessly. But wait a minute. Remember, the facility was air-gapped. So how on earth did this incredibly complex, 20 times more advanced digital missile using 4 0-day vulnerabilities actually get inside a secure, underground, completely disconnected nuclear facility? The answer is chillingly, almost comically simple. The ultimate Trojan horse wasn't some complex digital backdoor. It was a $5 infected USB flash drive. That's it. Someone, wittingly or unwittingly, we don't know, smuggled a physical thumb drive past the anti-aircraft guns, past the armed guards, and plugged it directly into a computer on the inside, completely bypassing that entire air-gapped security system. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. Section 4, Hacking Physical Reality. The moment that USB drive was plugged in, the code leaped from the digital realm and began its mission to translate its programming into concrete physical destruction. And what made Stuxnet a true masterpiece of engineering was its target precision. Once it was released, this code actually spread to millions of normal computers worldwide, but it didn't do anything to them. It literally just ignored them. It was looking for one very specific needle in a global haystack. It only activated when it found an exact hardware setup. Specifically, it was hunting for Siemens brand programmable logic controllers. And not just any Siemens controllers, but ones that were operating at highly specific exact electrical frequencies used specifically for uranium enrichment. If it didn't find that exact setup, it just stayed totally dormant. When it finally found its target in Natanz, the hijacking sequence began. First, it identified those specific Siemens controllers. Then, it actively hijacked the hardware, manipulating the electric current to force those delicate centrifuges to spin at over 1400 Hertz, which is just dangerously fast. Next, it would abruptly slow them down and then violently speed them up again. This manipulation of the machine's physics literally ripped the solid metal rotors apart. And step 4, this is the most devious part of the whole shebang. While it was destroying the machinery, the code recorded normal operational data and fed that fake, peaceful data back to the control room monitors. It's like a digital Ocean's 11. That is exactly why the operators were completely blind while the machinery tore itself to shreds right next door. Which leads us to the fallout. Section 5. The new cyber battlefield. So the crucial point is, when we pull back and look at the macro legacy of this attack, the results are just staggering. We are no longer just looking at one underground facility in the desert. We are looking at the global implications for all digital infrastructure everywhere. Natanz was basically the proof of concept that physical systems, the things that run our power grids, our water supplies, our manufacturing, they are vulnerable to digital strikes. Stuxnet was wildly successful. It destroyed nearly a fifth, 20%, of the entire facility's critical machinery, and it achieved this massive level of physical sabotage without a single drop of blood being spilled, without a single soldier crossing a border, and without a single explosive ever being detonated. It was a silent, completely invisible, and absolutely devastating strike. Which brings us directly to our modern reality. This quote really summarizes the terrifying new world we live in. The ultimate battlefield isn't land, sea, or air. It's the digital infrastructure. Stuxnet proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the protective line separating software from physical destruction has vanished, completely and forever. The glowing cyber grids that connect our modern globe, those are the new front lines. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative thought about our hyper-interconnected world. We rely on software to keep our airplanes in the sky, our hospital ventilators pumping, and our traffic lights functioning safely. Knowing that code can literally be weaponized into a physical missile, are we safe? And I'll ask you this, if the fate of your city's physical infrastructure depended on it, and you had to build a digital defense system to keep the phantom codes out, what programming language would you trust the most? Let that sink in for a bit, and keep questioning the technology around you.